Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, the time is now. You don't have that much longer to go through and optimize your roster to make too many more trades. So I think it's very important that we get these rest of season rankings right now to help you go through and possibly make some trades before this Sunday's kickoff. But before we dive into it, go down there, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. If you disagree with any of these or if you have any questions, feel free to drop them down there in the comment section. I'll be trying to answer as many of those questions as I possibly can. Last but not least, make sure if you want to go get access to this Leonard Fournette under for Thursday night, you go to the link in the comment section. You go to the link in the description. When you go and sign up for Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK, you can get into real drafts with us on the live stream, and they will match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to 200. So it's pretty much free for you to try out. Plus, they got all these cool player props available in damn near every single state. I think that's all we got for you. Let's go through. Let's dive right into this. Tier 1, Cooper Kupp. Now, usually we have wide receivers in the same tier as Kupp. But the more that I think about it, the more that we live stream every single night and I go through and answer these questions, the more it looks like Cooper Kupp just has access to a range of outcomes that no other player in fantasy does. Now, I know that maybe this is not the best time to be saying this, considering the fact that Stephon Diggs is currently the #1 wide receiver in fantasy. I don't know. I just feel like it's so difficult to have anybody but Kupp as that top player overall. So we're going to go Kupp in his own tier. I think you would rather have Kupp over any running back, over any tight end, over any quarterback. I think Kupp stands alone. Now going over to our tier 2, we're going to go Jefferson, Diggs, and Jamar Chase. So obviously we have the veteran stud playing with Josh Allen, who is the actual wide receiver 1 overall right now. Then we also have the 2 young ascending players in Jefferson and Jamar Chase. I mean, kind of funny that both Jefferson and Chase people were worried about earlier this season at different points. I think that there's not much to talk about outside of this is probably a learning moment for anybody who's maybe newer to fantasy football, maybe a more casual player, that they were very worried about Chase through a 2 or 3 game stretch, worried about Jefferson through a 2 games. Please, these are studs. You know these stud young wide receivers when you draft them. Don't panic at all when they start a little slow. But now going down to our next tier, we're going to have some names you're used to. Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill. I mean, both wide receivers have been phenomenal after changing teams. And this is really funny because if we look at the top 6 wide receiver rankings, or even if we include our next guy at 7 with DeAndre Hopkins, let's look at these top 7 rankings and try to see what is a little bit different than what we've historically had in fantasy football, where I started playing fantasy football back in like 2009, maybe 2010, around there, where you wouldn't really have too many veteran players switching teams and becoming elite assets in fantasy. In years past, if you look at the historical data, those wide receivers that changed teams during the offseason, 9 times out of 10, it's a red flag, but I guess this is just the new age of the NFL where a player, if they want to, can get traded like that, kind of turning into the NBA. I don't love it for the NFL long term, but I think that historical data of wide receivers changing teams and then taking a step back in production is now out the window. Stephon Diggs, obviously a new member of the Buffalo Bills. He was phenomenal his first season there back in 2020. Devontae Adams hits the ground running. Tyreek Hill hits the ground running. DeAndre Hopkins. 4 of the top 7 players for us here are veteran wide receivers that change teams. Just so different than what you're used to in fantasy. And yeah, DeAndre Hopkins at 7 comes in his first week back from injury, has 14 targets. Of course, it'll be a little bit worse when we get Hollywood Brown back in later on in the season. We'll talk about Hollywood Brown at the end of this video. But now our next guy, Jalen Waddle, my most drafted wide receiver in fantasy. You know we have to have him as a top 10 guy. I think with Waddle, I mean, hell, if you look at every week besides the 2 weeks that he was dealing with the groin injury and the fact that you had no Tua Tagovailoa there, I mean, it was freaking Skylar Thompson, then Teddy Bridgewater to Skylar Thompson. It's just changing so much. I think that we can honestly just kind of throw those 2 games out. And Jalen Waddle's been consistently getting to pretty much 100 receiving yards a game outside of that. Now our next guy, Amon-Ra St. Brown, in my opinion, the biggest buy low candidate that you are going to have at the wide receiver position. I think he comes back this week. I know that he disappointed you the week before the bye, but he didn't play his usual number of snaps. Still was clearly dealing with that ankle. So I think that after you have the bye week. He was supposed to play this entire past week, but obviously the protocol is what held him out the game. He is going to be someone playing every week going forward. And hell, he's been a top 10 wide receiver since the end of last year in his rookie year. And you have DJ Chark on the IR, which does make a difference here. Now going over to our next guy, CeeDee Lamb at 10. I'm starting to get a little bit more worried about Lamb. Not based on the talent profile of CeeDee Lamb, not based on Dak Prescott either. I think both players are great. It's just this Dallas Cowboys defense is phenomenal. If this Dallas Cowboys defense is not the best defense in the NFL, it is right up there as one of the best defenses in the NFL. And it's not like the Dallas Cowboys are very similar to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where they're up 30 points in the fourth quarter and they're going, okay, well, we got to keep on stat padding with Tom Brady. We're throwing the ball no matter what. No, in Dallas, if they have that double-digit lead in the fourth quarter, they are slowing down dramatically. They're running it out with Ezekiel Elliott as well as Tony Pollard. So a little bit worried about CeeDee Lamb from a fantasy football perspective. And I repeat, fantasy football, not real life football, just given the fact that hell, the passing volume may not have to be there in Dallas. Now dropping down to our next tier, we're going to have A.J. Brown at 11. I think you can make the argument that A.J. Brown should maybe be a tier higher, but the Philadelphia Eagles are in a very similar situation to the Dallas Cowboys. This is a phenomenal defense where the Philadelphia Eagles don't really have to throw the ball in the second half, especially not when you have one of the most efficient rushing attacks in the entire NFL. If you're looking at A.J. Brown, he has some serious target competition with guys like Devonta Smith as well as Dallas Goedert. What you really like about Brown is very similar to another player in this tier, in T. Higgins, is you just have every target being funneled to those three guys. Really, Quez Watkins not getting a lot of target volume. You don't really have any wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5 in Philadelphia as a consistent option. So while it's a lower passing volume attack, while he does have some serious target competition at the very top end, the target concentration is between three players, which you really, really do like to see. But now our next guy, Mike Evans at 12, going over to that Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense. Hell, we know that Evans had probably the worst drop of the year so far this season in Carolina. It doesn't really matter. However, if you're looking at Evans, if you're looking at Godwin, Tom Brady's still throwing the ball 50 plus times. So it's the exact opposite of CeeDee Lamb. Where CeeDee Lamb, because the passing volume may not be there, we still think he's great from a real life perspective, but from a fantasy football perspective, maybe we should be a little bit worried. With these Tampa guys, I think you should be a little worried from a real life perspective. However, from a fantasy football perspective, when Tom Brady's throwing the ball 50 times a game, who the hell cares if the efficiency's down? And now our last guy in this tier, T. Higgins, very comparable to A.J. Brown in my opinion, where hell, he's an elite level talent. He has some top end target competition with guys like Jamar Chase as well as Tyler Boyd and Hayden Hurst getting involved. But the concentration of targets is very real where they don't get involved a wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5. So I think you can safely value T. Higgins as that low end wide receiver 1, high end wide receiver 2. But now dropping down to our next tier, we had to move Chris Olave up a bit. So if you have been with us in the live stream over the past week, you've noticed that, I went from buying low on Alvin Kamara everywhere. From being a Chris Olave truther to all of a sudden talking about potentially looking to sell these players high with the addition of Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry back to this offense. However, they're still not a practice. Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry both missed practice on Wednesday. I have no idea when these guys are actually coming back. We are just completely in the dark with Michael Thomas. And what I'm very worried about in the case of Thomas here is we've historically seen, hell, he's fine sitting out. He doesn't care that much about football, where I'm a little bit worried that if the Saints, who are right now last in the division, lose another game, lose another 2 games, what is the incentive for Michael Thomas to come back? The man's getting paid regardless. Now, our next guy in this tier, Chris Godwin, consistent target volume. Yes, be worried about Tampa, but don't be worried about the Tampa receivers in fantasy. Now, dropping down to tier, we got Michael Pittman at 16. With Pittman, we've had a lot of people worried from the change of Matt Ryan to Sam Ehlinger. Of course, Hook 'em Horns. I used to see Sam on campus all the time, so I'm going to be rooting for my guy. But even with my bias aside, and also y'all know I was not a Matt Ryan truther coming in the year. I did not like Pittman. I thought y'all were overrating Matt Ryan, which turns out to be true. But what we have to do is we have to listen to the coaching staff. I am a clown with a microphone and a sign behind him. Okay. If I were to sit here and pretend that I can grind the tape, that I can figure out who's a better quarterback between Matt Ryan and Sam Ehlinger by watching preseason attempts from Sam Ehlinger, I would be trying to fool myself. I would be trying to fool you. I think if anybody's on YouTube sitting here grinding the tape out, trying to give you some hard takes about Matt Ryan versus Sam Ehlinger based on University of Texas film, based on preseason tape, they're doing you a disservice. How is someone on YouTube like myself, just some clown with the microphone, supposed to more accurately evaluate these quarterbacks than the Indianapolis coaching staff who sees both of these guys every single day in the building? This coaching staff every single day at practice gets to watch in depth Matt Ryan. They get to watch in depth Sam Ehlinger. I think we have to trust them. I'm trusting them. If they think Sam Ehlinger is an upgrade, hell, I think Sam Ehlinger's maybe a slight upgrade. At the worst, maybe a lateral move. I don't think it's a downgrade. Now going over to our next guy, Deebo Samuel, 17. Deebo's not running the ball, and now that you have Christian McCaffrey coming over, I mean, hell, I am very worried about the usage. Keenan Allen, 18. I know Keenan Allen here is going to be extremely aggressive. I don't think you need to trade for Keenan Allen now, but I definitely think that you are going to be looking to go out there and get Keenan Allen after the bye. I mean, look at the situation. Mike Williams going down with a pretty serious high ankle injury. Keenan Allen now gets the bye week to hopefully come back to us sometime soon. Very excited about Keenan in a full PPR format, but someone that you would actually rather have in a non-PPR league, given the touchdown upside, Gabriel Davis. Obviously with Gabe Davis, has the big playability, playing in the elite level offense, has that touchdown upside you look for in a non-PPR league. These rankings are going to be for that full PPR format. However, so given the lack of just consistent target volume from Gabe Davis, I would rather have Keenan in that full PPR league. Now, Amari Cooper is going to be our next guy here at 20. With Amari Cooper, I mean, hell, I think you can make the argument that he should be. And you know what? Yeah, let's move him in this same tier with guys like Keenan Allen and Gabriel Davis. Because with Amari, maybe he belongs in the tier below for now. But in the long term, when you get Deshaun Watson back in, I think Amari Cooper will actually be much higher than this. I think he'll go up into that Olave Godwin tier or that A.J. Brown tier. Because, I mean, I know everybody has their opinion on Deshaun Watson. What I'm here to say is the Cleveland Browns did not trade 3 first-round picks to get Deshaun Watson. All the baggage that comes along with him, to take that suspension, then give him the most money in guaranteed NFL history because he's a bad quarterback. No, they did that because he's an elite level quarterback. He will elevate the play of Amari Cooper. Now, dropping down to our next tier, Mike Williams, 21. Not too excited about Williams with Keenan Allen coming back in. I mean, we talked about it coming into the season. I think Mike Williams is that field stretching wide receiver where he's going to be looking to create space underneath for guys like Keenan Allen as well as Austin Eckler. Very valuable from a real life perspective, but from a fantasy football perspective, don't necessarily know if we can consistently rely on the target volume whenever you do have Keenan Allen coming back in. So be a little bit worried about Mike Williams, especially with the high ankle sprain. I mean, if he was fully healthy, he would be higher than this, but a high ankle sprain is scary. Next guy, Christian Kirk at 22. Really do like Christian Kirk. I think some people are actually underrating him a bit. I mean, if you look at the raw points per game, Kirk's actually been higher than this so far this season. Now, last guy this tier, Tyler Lockett, 23. With Lockett, I thought he would actually be a lot higher than this. I thought we were going to have Lockett right around where we had Michael Pittman, but reports are coming out of Seattle saying the DK Metcalf injury, not nearly as serious as initially thought. So DK Metcalf will be our next guy at 24 as well. Obviously, Geno Smith has been one of the best stories of the NFL season. You want to continue to root for Geno Smith. But to be completely honest, I'd be very surprised if Geno ends up being a top 5 to 10 quarterback in passing yards when it's all said and done. I think the passing volume may come down a bit. But our 2 next guys, Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. And I am this close, this freaking close to go and flip these 2 players again. Y'all know coming into the season, we were calling Courtland Sutton one of the most overrated players in fantasy. He was being drafted as a wide receiver 1, going in the 3rd round. Oh my gosh, it was obnoxiously bad. We ranked Jerry Jeudy 1 spot above Sutton because I wanted a lot of people to just wait a few rounds, get Jerry Jeudy later. With Jeudy, if you remove the 2 weeks that he was injured, weeks 2 and 3, if we remove those 2 weeks from Courtland Sutton and Jeudy, Judy's been the wide receiver one here. It's been razor thin, but it's not a situation where Sutton's easily the wide receiver one in Denver. Please open your eyes. Look at what happened. Look at what happened here. Now, 27 is going to be Devonta Smith. With Smith, not only is he going up against A.J. Brown, but he's also going to be going up against Dallas Goedert. If Goddard wasn't involved, Smith would be a lot higher than this. Last wide receiver in this tier, going to be Juju Smith-Schuster. Coming off 2 phenomenal weeks here, should be very excited about Juju in best ball leagues. Of course, he's going to have these random spikes whenever he's playing in one of the best offenses in the NFL. The issue is, can we consistently project it? I don't necessarily think so, especially if they start to get Sky more involved in the second half of the season, which looks highly unlikely, but still like a possibility. And now our last tier, we're going to have Ayuk at 29. With Ayuk, I think he is negatively impacted as well with Christian McCaffrey coming over, knowing how large of a role Christian McCaffrey will have. Like I said, I think that you do have Deebo Samuel taking a larger hit than Ayuk, but Ayuk definitely takes a hit. And then our last wide receiver here will be Hollywood Brown. We were talking about selling Hollywood Brown before the injury, before DeAndre Hopkins came back, not because I'm smart enough to know there's an injury. Of course, we just kind of got lucky with that. But I think DeAndre Hopkins proved this past week with the 14 targets that DeAndre Hopkins is going to be a player that just consistently sees a ridiculous amount of target volume. And for that reason, I think you have to be a little bit concerned about Hollywood. He's probably going to come back in about 4 to 6 weeks. And I think he will significantly, and I repeat, significantly help Kyler Murray. But I would be a little bit concerned if we are going to be looking at his usage and how it's going to be impacted by DeAndre Hopkins. But I think that's all I got for you. Of course, thank you so much for checking out the video. If you have not done so already, go down there, drop that like, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football, leave a comment if you have any questions. And also, if you want to check out any of these cool player props for tonight, if you want to go look at the less than yards on Leonard Fournette, you can find the link to Underdog Fantasy in the comment section in the description of the video. And when you go and sign up for Underdog with promo code FLOCK, they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $200. But I think that's all I got for you. Of course, thank you so much for supporting the channel. I hope you have a great day, and I hope I get to see you in the live stream tonight.